One more outburst from you, Mr. Erickson, and I will hold you in contempt of court. The judge's face turned red, and I had to stifle a laugh at her almost comical expression. Mr. Young, I strongly advise you to control your client. I had been warned several times, but it's hard not to say crap when it's part of your vocabulary, especially dealing with a judge like this. A guy once told me he'd never met anyone who said it more than I do. Maybe I do say it a lot, but it just flows without thought. As I started to speak, I saw the judge tense up, and my attorney, Bert Young, warned me not to speak so openly unless I wanted a night in jail. The court recorder stifled a giggle, likely bracing for a torrent of F-bombs. Across the courtroom, my ex-best friend, his wife, and my soon-to-be ex-wife looked nervous. Robin, my soon-to-be ex, looked shamed and downtrodden. Bruce sat there with defeat on his face, and Cheryl, his wife, looked pissed off. She clearly didn't like their dirty laundry aired in court. By now, you might wonder how I ended up being scolded by this simpleton in the black robe. It all started one day. Let's call it Tuesday, because it was a Tuesday. My name is Jack Erickson. I'm a 32-year-old foreman in the city maintenance department of Stonemore, Colorado. I started with the city 2 days after graduating high school. In winter, I plow the major roads. In summer, I do whatever needs to be done. Robin works a few hours a week at the church to break from housework. Our maintenance department is split into 4 quadrants, each with a supervisor and a foreman. I'm not the supervisor because I never went to college and I use common sense. Plus, I avoid office politics. Usually, if a supervisor tells a crew to do something, they'll check with someone like me first. All foremen were promoted from within, while supervisors were directly hired. Monday evening brought a nasty June thunderstorm with high wind and hail. My quadrant got hit hardest, so we had a lot of debris to clear from the streets. I had 6 crews with dump trucks picking up debris, and drove around in a pickup checking storm drain complaints. If they were blocked, I'd call one of the 2 vacuum trucks at my disposal. I also had 4 street sweepers running all day. In the afternoon, I checked problem alleys to see if we'd need gravel soon. None of my 3 parks got mowed, so I'd have to get crews on that in the morning. Robin and I had a nice 4-bedroom, 2-story home in an older neighborhood. We couldn't afford the rich side of town, but we didn't live in the gangland either. We got along well with our neighbors. Tom and Jerry McBain lived next door. Ron and Cindy lived directly behind us, and my childhood friend Bruce Harris lived behind the McBains with his wife Cheryl. All 4 households got along so well that we had no fences separating our backyards. Bruce and I have been friends since middle school. I got him into more trouble than he could handle. And to make matters worse, his parents were extra religious, while mine didn't care much about God. Dad often told me as long as I didn't knock some girl up or cost him money, he didn't care what I did. If Bruce's parents were going to nail him for something, I'd take the blame. I know they hated me, so their opinion didn't matter. Bruce grew up as religious as his parents. He went to Bible college and became a preacher at a local church. I only go to church on Easter and Christmas. Robin, on the other hand, goes to church religiously. While Bruce was at Bible college, he met Cheryl. Cheryl could have been a Playboy playmate. She's 5'7", 110 pounds, with blonde hair, blue eyes, and a 36-24-34 figure. Despite her looks, she's a prayer machine. Bruce is like the yin to my yang, but there wasn't anything I wouldn't do for him. Or so I thought. When I got home Tuesday evening, I had to heat up leftover meatloaf from Sunday for dinner. I didn't mind, but my wife hadn't cooked a weekday meal in months. I wanted to drink a 12-pack, but the red mark on the calendar meant I could only have 1 beer since I was on emergency standby. I ate while Robin showered, wishing she'd pay as much attention to me as she did to the shower. It was 7 p.m., and I doubted I'd see her again that night. She gave me a half-hearted, "How was your day?" when I got home. This routine had been going on for months, and I was tired of it. Our bed life was the worst part. We used to have lovemaking 3 or 4 times a week. In the past 3 months, I'd had lovemaking twice and 2 weak handjobs. She barely noticed me anymore, and that night was no different. So I watched the Rockies play the Padres on TV and wished for Jägermeister around 10 o'clock. Just as I was about to go to bed, my phone rang. It was City County Dispatch about a water main break near Birchwood Mall. I packed some snacks and headed out. At the city yard, I got the keys and waited for my crew, including guys from every quadrant, a city water department supervisor, and 4 of their guys. I hooked up a trailer to the dump truck, loaded a backhoe, and we headed to the break site. The street was flooded since the Northwest crews hadn't cleared the storm sewers, so I sent for a vacuum truck. At 1 a.m., I started breaking pavement with the backhoe. It was slow going due to the water. By 3 o'clock, we exposed the pipe and started hauling away mud. By 8:45 a.m., the water guys had reconnected the pipe and tested it. The building inspector approved the fix around 9:30, and by noon, we were ready to repave. Since a contractor would handle paving, I returned the equipment to the yard by 1 o'clock. At 1:45, I pulled into my driveway, knowing I was off work until Friday. Inside, Robin was nowhere to be found. She was off doing whatever she did all day, which didn't seem to include housework. I grabbed a beer and a sandwich. As I closed the fridge, I heard the unmistakable sound of a woman having lovemaking coming from upstairs. "No wonder you don't screw me anymore," I muttered as I grabbed my Kimber .45 from the coat closet and headed upstairs. The noise got louder. I approached the master bedroom, but it was empty. I checked the bathroom, also empty. I had 2 choices left: the guest bedroom or Robin's craft room. The guest bedroom was empty too. I kicked open the craft room door, weapon ready, but it was empty as well. The sound was loudest there, and I noticed the window overlooking the backyard was open. I looked out and saw something shocking. Tommy and Brenda, the McBain children, were having lovemaking by their pool. Tommy was a college junior, and Brenda was about to start her freshman year. She'd had a crush on me. It hit me. I was witnessing inbreeding. "I thought this only happened in places like Mississippi," I muttered. I knew I shouldn't watch, but it was like a train wreck. I wondered if Tom or Jerry knew this was happening in their home. I doubted it. Even the wildest people I knew wouldn't condone it. "They're watching us. Look at them," Bryn said to Tommy. "Oh, hell, that's so hot," said Brenda. She looked to her left, and I saw Bruce's bare back in his house's upstairs window. He was clearly drilling someone. I thought I'd hang around, hoping to see Cheryl unclothed. Then Bruce turned around. "Holy crap!" I yelled so loudly that the lovemaking stopped below. Bruce was pounding my Robin. I froze, unsure what to do. I aimed at Bruce, but was distracted by Tommy and Brenda running unclothed for their house. I looked back up, intending to shoot Bruce, but they were gone. "Goddamn filthy woman!" I yelled, grabbing my Mossberg and loading it with buckshot. "Bruce and the promiscuous are going to die. Cheryl's cat and parakeet are fair game too." I headed out, pistol tucked in my jeans. Halfway down the driveway, I stopped. I now understood everything. My house wasn't clean, meals were from the freezer, and my little Johnny was neglected because Bruce was wearing her out. She took so many showers that the reservoir should be named after me. I got into my truck and left tire marks on the street as I headed for Lowe's. On the way, I processed everything. She never cooked because Bruce was exhausting her. She couldn't clean while getting her freak on. The biggest question was why the 2 people I trusted most would betray me like that. At Lowe's, I went straight to the door section and picked up 3 new lock sets. Jeannie at the paint counter waved, and I barely noticed, half-heartedly waving back. When I got home, Brenda and Tommy were waiting in my driveway. What do these perverts want? I wondered. They looked like they were going to the gallows. Brenda offered a sheepish smile. "We're sorry to have disturbed you, Mr. Erickson. We didn't mean to offend you. It's just—" I cut her off. "I don't care if you screw each other until your holes turn to tunnels. It's none of my business. You guys aren't even on my radar of problems right now." They walked away sheepishly. I felt Brenda's eyes on my hips as I went inside. I set the lock sets down and went to find my tools. In the kitchen, my blood boiled. Bruce was sitting at my table. "What are you doing in my house, you cursed sucker?" I demanded. "I came to talk to you as a friend," Bruce replied. "Friend?" I laughed bitterly. "With friends like you, who needs enemies? Do you think I'm just going to say, 'Hey, Bruce, how were my wife's holes this morning?'" "Jack, it doesn't have to be this way," he said. "You're right. Hand me that butcher knife," I instructed, sliding a knife across the table. He looked at it and then at the Kimber in my hand. "Come on, Jack," he said shakily. "You can't seriously expect—" "Pick it up, a-hole. You love Jesus so much, I want you to meet him. Now pick up the knife and let me put the make my day law to use, you trespassing piece of pious crap," I ordered. Bruce jumped up and ran for the door. He stopped on the porch and turned back. "Jack, we've been friends forever. Are you willing to throw that away?" "I lost 2 people today, Bruce. But I think when I get past all of it, I'll realize it's no real loss." "Where's Robin?" I asked. "She's at my house. She's afraid to come over here," he admitted. "Tell her she has 5 minutes to get over here if she wants any chance of staying married to me. Now get off my property before I risk prison just to feel better," I warned. Bruce scurried off, and I wondered how long it would take Robin to drag her cheating bum home. 4 minutes later, I heard her sniveling and sobbing long before I saw her. People must have wondered what was going on when they saw her walking up the sidewalk, crying. She reached to hug me, and I stepped back. "Keep your filthy hands to yourself," I commanded. "But I love you, baby. I only want to be with you," she pleaded. "Let's go inside. These neighbors don't need to hear our business," I said, moving into the living room and sitting in my favorite chair. She sat on the love seat. "Would you sit next to me?" she asked. "Hell no, I don't want to be near you," I refused. I hated awkward silences, so I jumped in. "How long have you been screwing that idiot?" "He loves you like a brother. He's your best friend," she responded. Jack Asterisk was Asterisk my friend, I corrected. "Friends don't screw their friends' wives," I added. "It's just lovemaking. I still love you," she insisted. "What a load of crap. It's just lovemaking." "Whoever thought of that excuse deserves a cinder block to the head," I yelled. "No need to be angry. You still have me. I'm not going anywhere," she said. "Yes, you are. You're choosing Bruce over me in our marriage. You can't give me 5 minutes, but you can bend over for him any time." "How wonderful," I retorted. I felt a headache coming on and put my head in my hands. She started to get up and walk toward me. "Sit back down. I hope it's worth throwing away a decade of marriage," I said. "I'm not ending our marriage. We can stay married. I'll just have lovemaking with Bruce. I don't love him, just his meat. He says I can take care of your needs once or twice a week," she explained. "How kind of him. I think I'll find someone else to take care of my needs," I remarked. "No, you're my husband. No one else should have lovemaking with you. We are still man and wife," she argued. "Not for much longer. Ex-wife is more fitting for someone like you and that hypocritical curs, Bruce Harris," I declared. "Please don't talk like that. I love you with all my heart, but I love Bruce's big meat too. You just need to understand Bruce's plan. We all can be happy," she tried to reason. "I understand perfectly. You want to have your cake and eat it too," I concluded. "It's not like that at all," she protested. "Then explain it to me," I challenged. "I can't. You'd never." "Well, I think Bruce wants me back in 3 minutes," she stammered. "What the hell are you babbling about?" I asked, seeing the shock on her face. "You've never called me names or talked this way to me. What's gotten into you?" she inquired. "Let's see. I haven't slept since 6 a.m. yesterday, and I worked all night. Or maybe it's because I got home to find my wife drilling someone else, you idiot," I snapped. She started crying and headed for the door. "That's it, go to Bruce. Go get the meat you crave," I shouted. She turned at the door. "I don't see why we can't keep things as they are. You're not home all the time. I can be his while you're at work." I slammed the door so hard, I thought it splintered. "Screw you! Go eat your cake!" I yelled so loud my throat hurt. I sat with my back to the door, feeling unmanly. Dad would have whipped my bum if he'd seen me with tears. So I sucked it up and got on with my tasks. I changed the locks on all the doors and recoded the garage opener. At 4, I decided to take a break. I was exhausted and needed to sit. I flipped on the TV to Jerry Springer. How fitting, a show about cheating wives and messed up families. I didn't make it far with Jerry before falling asleep. When I woke up, it was past 9, and someone was knocking at my door. I got up and answered. It was Bruce. "What do you want? I ought to strike the crap out of you," I said. "I need a favor," Bruce responded. "If you don't take the cake, I don't have a girlfriend for you to screw. Try elsewhere," I retorted. "Robin needs you. She's crying her eyes out. Can't you call her and tell her you're not angry and everything will be okay?" He pleaded. "Tell her everything will be okay. I'm done with both of you." "What's Cheryl gonna say when she finds out you're screwing Robin?" I asked. "She knows. She's happy the sneaking around can stop. She wants you two to stay together," he admitted. "Get off my porch. Tell her stuff will be on the porch in the morning. Any door knocking will be met unkindly," I warned. I slammed the door and went for a cold beer. For some reason, I took my 6-pack upstairs and sat in Robin's craft room watching out the window. It dawned on me I should record evidence for divorce, so I grabbed the camcorder. Watching Bruce's house, I noticed movement next door. Jerry McBain was at the pool in a robe. I hoped she had a one-piece bathing suit underneath. Jerry might be the nicest person, but she fell out of the ugly tree and hit every branch. Unlike her daughter, her body wasn't a distraction from her face. Tom isn't much better. It baffles me that Tommy and Brenda aren't uglier. Unfortunately, Jerry took off her robe and dove into the pool. I turned back to Bruce's house. With the camera on night vision, I saw Cheryl and Robin on the porch swing talking quietly. Headlights lit up Bruce's house. Tom must be home from managing his restaurant. He went straight to the pool and started stripping. "What did I do to deserve this?" I muttered. I watched Bruce's house until I heard Tom enter the pool. They cozied up and embraced in the water. I could hear their conversation. "How was work, babe?" Jerry asked. "Busy. I had to fire Juan for smoking dope on his break," Tom replied. "Did you warn him?" she asked. "I heard something interesting today," he said. "Do tell," she prompted. "Jack kicked Robin out today," he informed. "What?" she exclaimed. "Yeah, he actually kicked her out," Tom confirmed. "Has he lost it? Those two would die without each other. I always thought she'd throw him out for his foul mouth," she said. "You have to be wrong," Tom doubted. According to Tommy and Brenda, when they were cleaning the pool, they saw Bruce and Robin having lovemaking in Bruce's window. Jack must have been home for some reason. They heard Jack yell a profanity and saw Bruce and Robin quickly stop. Jack left and came back with a Lova's bag, changed the locks, and later called Robin a promiscuous, Jerry relayed. "I can't believe it," said Tom. "I'll check on Jack tomorrow. I want you to stay away from Bruce. I always thought he looked at you and Robin too closely." The thought of Bruce undressing Jerry mentally made me shudder. Brenda said she'd take Jack a cake tomorrow to cheer him up. She thinks highly of him. He's crude, but I can't think of anyone else I'd want on my side. "I saw him working by the mall this morning," Jerry said. "Was he wearing a hard hat?" Tom asked. "Yes," she confirmed. "You and your construction worker predilection. Maybe I can get Jack to model it for you," Tom teased. I shuddered again. Normally a guy loves to hear a woman finds him attractive, but for the first few weeks, I thought Tom and Jerry were a gay couple. Jerry can look quite manly. "You're so bad," she told him. "I can't understand why Robin would rather screw Bruce when she has Jack," she wondered aloud. "You're starting to give me a complex," Tom said. "You're the only hunk for me, my hot man," Jerry assured. Realizing they were about to have lovemaking, I decided to go to bed. I wasn't sure I'd sleep, but I didn't want nightmares about Tom and Jerry. I turned on the radio for noise and heard the heavy metal grindcore show on the college station. I listened to tracks by Carcass, Deicide, and Obituary. Before the show ended, they played Cannibal Corpse's Make Them Suffer. As I listened, I decided I wanted to make Bruce and Robin suffer. Corpse Grinder Fisher's lyrics echoed in my mind. "Make them suffer, make them suffer, make them suffer." And I vowed, "I will, Corpse Grinder, I will." The next morning, someone was pounding on my door. I shook off sleep and went to see who had an early morning pass-away wish. I opened the door, ready to yell at Robin, but it was Cheryl Harris. "Oh, it's you. What do you want? Robin's stuff isn't packed yet," I said. "I don't want you to pack her stuff, Jack. I want you to let her come back home," Cheryl responded. "And I thought you were going to ask for something unreasonable." "I'm going back to bed," I replied, starting to close the door, but she blocked it. "Wait, Jack. Why are you doing this? Robin is hurting, and you won't consider her feelings?" she asked. "What's to consider? She wants to be with you and Bruce more than me. I'm letting her be with you and staying out of the way," I explained. "Bruce and I can't have her live with us. We have an image to protect," she pleaded. "You should have thought of that before dragging my wife into your sick game. Why can't she live with you? Really? You don't see a problem here? I gave her a chance to stay. She chose your husband's meat over me. The worst part is you don't seem to care, but I do. Now leave me alone," I demanded. "She still loves you, Jack. We didn't want to take her away from you. We love her. And you too. I hate to see you throw away your friendship with Bruce," Cheryl insisted. "He's dead to me. So is she," I stated coldly. "You can't mean that, Jack. She'll still take care of your needs," she tried to persuade. "Oh, why didn't you say so sooner?" I retorted sarcastically. "I feed and house her, buy her clothes, a car, and everything she needs. She screws you too, and I get a weekly romantic handshake. Bruce gets his harem without any cost. Screw that. Do I get love-making time with you?" I asked pointedly. "Sorry, Jack, I'm a one-man woman," she replied. A one-man woman," I said bemusedly. "Man, I'd sure like one of those." "Well then, that's what I have to find. Tell the promiscuous her stuff will be out here in an hour." "Come on, Jack. Stop acting like a caveman. Bruce and I have an image to maintain for our church. We can't have Robin living with us," she begged. "That's your problem, not mine. Get off my porch, Cheryl," I said, closing the door firmly behind me. "Sounds like your problem." "Sucks to be you." I slammed the door and went to make some bacon. Screw their image, I thought. I can't believe anyone thought I'd agree to this stupid idea. They want to look squeaky clean while having wild lovemaking with my wife. Corpse Grinder's words echoed, "Make them suffer." I called a coworker who handled his divorce when he caught his wife with her brother. He gave me the name of a law firm, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, specializing in men not wanting to get screwed in their divorces. I got an appointment for that afternoon. I packed all of Robin's clothes and toiletries into bags and put them on the front porch. I added some things I knew she'd want. I put her car keys under the floor mat and went to the bank. There, I canceled all the credit cards, closed our joint account, and opened a new one in my name. She had a card I didn't know about, so I gave the bank Bruce's address to send him the bill. At 1 p.m, I went to the law office. I hoped for David Crosby, known for making quick work of divorce attorneys. Instead, I got Bert Young. He was scruffy, but his record spoke for itself. He reviewed my files without a word, then called his paralegal in to take my paperwork. Mr. Erickson, I think we can get you everything you want and take the preacher down a notch. Do you have photo or video proof? No, but the neighbor kids saw them too. I just want her out of my life. The paralegal brought in papers for me to sign. Bert explained each one and why it was necessary. He gave me a list of things to do, most of which I had already done. I paid his retainer and went home to nap. Robin's stuff was gone when I got home. A note was taped to my door. I took it inside and lay on the couch. Springer was on. The note was from Robin, begging to come home, with no mention of giving up Bruce. Bert and I decided to serve her and Bruce with legal papers at church on Sunday. I found the idea amusing and decided to attend. Over 50 messages were on my answering machine, all deleted with the help of beer. I slept well that night. The next morning, I set to fixing Bruce's wagon. First, I called the city accounting department. I had allowed my crews to haul several loads of gravel to Bruce's church for free. I kept the tier slips, and now I knew why. Janice assured me the bill would be entered as unpaid, so Bruce would get a call from collections. At $45 a ton plus $30 per load for transportation, Bruce now owed the city $7,500 for gravel and would get a visit from building inspectors for not pulling permits. I also mentioned to the water company supervisor about their non-compliant water meter. They'd have to replace it for $1,200. Bruce knew I had kept them from paying for many things. Make them suffer. I was going to bankrupt the prick. I knew of several home projects Bruce hadn't done properly. Building inspectors were now informed. Bruce would pay dearly to fix it all. I knew he'd call soon, and he did, at noon. "What are you trying to pull, Jack?" Bruce demanded. "What do you mean?" I asked innocently. "Building inspectors are telling me I have to redo the whole parking lot. You said everything would be fine," Bruce accused. "Seems I forgot to turn in some paperwork." "Don't worry, I'll be reprimanded," I replied. "I hope they fire you," he retorted angrily. Just then, my supervisor walked in, aware of who was on the phone. "Jack, about that late paperwork, remind me to put a scathing post-it note in your file," he said with a smirk. "I'll need a post-it to remind me to remind you," I joked. "Okay, Jack, try not to do it again," my supervisor quipped, leaving the room. "Oh, that was some reprimand, Jack," Bruce said sarcastically. "I'm surprised he didn't fine you a nickel." "He did file all my tier slips. Expect a bill, Bruce," I shot back before he hung up. That evening, I went to Mabby's bar for a beer or three. Many city workers and cops were there, and by 11, most had heard my story. A full-out maltreatment campaign was underway. A cop buddy mentioned Bruce might get pulled over more often. A fire department friend suggested the church might make the inspection list on Monday, and the fire marshal would give it full attention. "These churches are always out of date on something," he said. "Usually we don't enforce the code too harshly, but Tony might consider the safety of the congregation." Sheila Torres from the county clerk's office mentioned the assessor might find an error in Bruce's property tax assessment, leading to a past due amount. "Make them suffer indeed," she added. Saturday morning, I worked in my garage. The backyard was no haven with the half-unclothed neighbors and the swinging pricks behind them. I was restoring a cabinet when I heard a noise behind me. I turned, expecting Robin, but saw Brenda. "Hi, Jack. Mr. Erickson," Brenda greeted. "Hi, what do you need, Brenda?" I asked, noting her attractive figure but quickly reminding myself of her questionable activities with her brother. "I have a video you might find useful taken a week ago," she said, handing me a USB stick, her hand lingering in mine. My eyes locked onto her chest before I looked at her face again. She had a look of lust, then blinked it away. "I have chores to do, but the video might help your case, Mr. Erickson," she added. "I'll check it out, Brenda. Thanks for bringing it," I replied. She turned and left, looking back over her shoulder. "My pleasure to help, Jack. Have a good one," she said. She had never called me anything but Mr. Erickson. I pocketed the stick and continued my tasks. I finally mowed the lawn, enduring Robin's screaming from Bruce's balcony. I added buying a loud MP3 player to my list. Tom and Jerry didn't call the cops, and the family opted for the AC inside. At 5, I headed to Joe's Pit BBQ for their rib platter. While eating, John Brandon, Cheryl's brother, spotted me. John, an engineer for the city-county road department, and I had a good rapport. Unsure of his stance, I pretended not to notice him. He told Ramona, Joe's wife, he had a to-go order and paid. Next thing I knew, John was at my table. "Hi, Jack," he greeted. "Haven't seen you in ages, John," I replied. "I've been busy. Every time we clean up one storm, another rolls through," he explained. "Yeah, I hear that. We're opening bids next week for replacing the Johnson Street Bridge. You guys will get some tasks, but the commissioners want contractors to handle most of it," I informed him. "That would be nice. We need to fill 100 potholes and repair 3 park irrigation systems. How's life treating you?" I couldn't tell if he was fishing for info or unaware of my situation. We made small talk for a few minutes, then he got to the point. "I understand my brother-in-law's church is under scrutiny and he'll be paying the city a lot for upgrades. Glad someone is stepping on that dirtbag's toes. Remind me not to get on your bad side, Jack." He clapped my shoulder. "See you around, Jack." He got his food and left. I finished my meal, stopped at Chang's Liquor for a bottle of vodka, and went home. About to watch TV, I remembered the USB stick Brenda had given me. I popped it into my laptop and saw only one file. Opening it, I saw Brenda leaning out her bedroom window, wearing nothing below the waist and pleasuring herself. "Oh, babe, you turn me on. I'd love to jump on your meat," she said, with my lawnmower's sound in the background. I remembered her watching me mow several times. On screen, she climaxed and shook with ecstasy. I was about to fast forward when Tommy entered the room. "Hold it, young lady. Are you giving pleasure to yourself?" I cringed, knowing I was a fixture in the McBain household. "I am, Tommy. Pretend you're him. Screw me and make me believe it's him." I skipped ahead, and soon the screen showed Robin, Bruce, and Cheryl in a menage a trois on their terrace. I felt stupid for not noticing them just 50 yards away. Now I had evidence for my divorce. I called in a favor from a friend. The video would serve another purpose before court. For the first time in ages, I was up early on Sunday, ready for church. After coffee and a bagel, I drove to Vinewood Presbyterian Church. In the parking lot, I saw others who likely didn't frequent Bruce's services. I followed them in and took a seat. I caught the eye of Robert Donovan, who managed the audio-video system. Robert owed me a few favors. I checked the bulletin my moment would come after the offering. The choir entered with Cheryl and Robin close together. Bruce babbled about forgiveness without mentioning the 7th commandment. We sang a few hymns, and then the offering plates were passed. Once gathered, they went to Robert at the console, who counted the money during the sermon. 10 minutes later, Bruce prayed to welcome newcomers and asked guests to introduce themselves. My 3 guests stood and went to the pulpit. Bruce shook hands with each and handed them the mic. A young brunette spoke first. "I'm here to see Cheryl Harris." Cheryl came forward, looking puzzled. The brunette handed the mic to a pimply-faced, red-haired kid. "I'm here to see Robin Erickson," he said. Robin joined Cheryl. Pimples handed the mic to their boss's son, Neil Young. "Bruce Harris, Cheryl Harris, and Robin Erickson, you have been served." They handed documents to the shocked trio. Bruce grabbed his mic and asked, "Why have you defiled my sanctuary?" Robert then streamed the video clip. On the big screen behind the pulpit, the image of Bruce, Cheryl, and Robin unclothed on the patio appeared. 4 or 5 old ladies reached for their phones, likely to call the cops. One elderly lady punched Bruce in the nuts with her cane. Robin read her paper and screamed. I headed for the door but turned to see Robin and Bruce spotting me. Robin ran towards me while Bruce stayed put. I spun around only to be met by a cop. Days later, after the dust settled and the DA refused to file charges against me, Bruce installed a privacy fence as required by his restraining order. I wasn't allowed near his church except for city business, and he couldn't maltreat me. Robin could only contact me through Burt Young. Sonny Bono, our assistant DA, chuckled when I told him I had slipped the USB stick into the collection plate for Robert. Bruce wanted me charged with trespassing, but since it was a public service, he got nowhere. Robert lost his job, but took a position at another church. Burt Young informed me that we'd go before Judge Sonia Kagan in 2 weeks to begin proceedings. She can be tough. She usually favors the wife over the husband. Since you own the house, she can't do much to you. But she always gives alimony to cheaters, which worries me. My immediate supervisor is a fresh college grad. I run my quad because he never overrides me, knowing I handle everything well. Other supervisors are more hands-on, but still involved. Marvin Taylor, however, runs the worst quad in town, doesn't trust his leads, and never helps his crews. Most guys would rather pull their ball hair out with pliers than spend 5 minutes with him. Rumor has it he has dirt on someone in city council, or was the mayor's lover, which explains his job security. Today, Marvin showed up in my office. If he managed a 5-minute conversation without being a xenophobe or offender, it'd snow 5 feet tomorrow, despite it being almost the 4th of July. So, Jackie boy, I hear you're getting a divorce. Did she catch you with your schlong in the cat's poop chute? I wasn't about to tell him the truth. No, I just got tired of her crap. Do you have a judge yet? Yeah, Judge Kagan. That witch, she screwed my son in his divorce, gave his promiscuous the house and kids, and Jeff has to pay for both. I hope you have a good attorney. Jeff had some cheap lawyer he found in the classifieds. I wondered if Marvin ever thought about the filth he spewed. He managed to offend 2 races in one go. I wondered if he ever talked like this in front of Jimmy Raines, his 6'5" African-American foreman. Jimmy, who played linebacker for the New York Giants, seemed intimidating but was a riot after a few beers. Once, at Mabby's, he scared off some frat boys from the bathroom just by looking at them. Zeke, the bartender, had to ask him to stop messing with the college kids. Jimmy was great, but he wouldn't find Marvin's slurs funny. Jimmy saved me from more of Marvin's nonsense by telling him they needed to check on Marvin's inept crew. I quietly thanked Jimmy for his timely appearance. In 2 weeks, I'd face Judge Kagan, and I doubted Jimmy could save me from that. But maybe it wouldn't be so bad. In court, Judge Kagan sat unflinching as I erupted. This witch ordered couples counseling. When I refused, she threatened me with jail. I turned to Bert. Come on, tell her this therapy isn't happening. I looked at the judge. I just want to be rid of this skank and her preacher pals. Bruce hung his head. Cheryl looked furious. And Bert had subpoenaed the Harrises as witnesses. Their congregation had dwindled, and Bruce's 2 services for 150 had become 1 for 10, plus 3 representatives from the main church planning to replace Bruce. The choir of 20 was now Cheryl, Robin, and Charles Brown. First, it's only lovemaking. I wondered if she'd buy that excuse if I'd been caught with Rebecca Sanders. Becky was known as the promiscuous of all promiscuous. Jack works a lot, and I feel neglected. I worked 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday, and had only been called away at night 4 times in the past year and a half. My first time with Bruce was out of curiosity. I heard he had a larger-than-normal, schlong. Curiosity. How many have used the excuse of wanting to know what a bigger meat felt like? As she went on, I recalled how I had first hooked up with her. Homecoming meant a lot at Summit Southern Colorado State, mostly for the parties. Willie Barnes's bonfire on the Eastern Prairie was a staple event, despite Willie being a 45-year-old pervert who hosted it to Ogle College and high school girls. He was arrested 5 years later for assaulting 6 girls, with charges sticking for 3. Robin's junior year homecoming was special because the Fighting Farmers actually won, even though half the opposing team had stomach flu. I wasn't a student. I worked part-time for the city and campus maintenance, hoping to afford classes one day. We were told not to clean up until Sunday morning, so we could party and clean up once instead of twice. My friend Jerry Barnes invited me to the bash at his cousin Willie's ranch. By 11 o'clock, I was buzzed. About half the crowd had disappeared, though the parking lot was still full. I figured it was safe to take a piss in the parking lot. I walked out, stopped in front of a seemingly unoccupied car, and proceeded to relieve myself on the grill. As I finished, I stumbled and braced myself on the hood, turning on the headlights. The guy inside was a blur, but the brunette giving him a headlocked eyes with me. I quickly apologized and headed back to the bonfire. I saw the same brunette by the fire and moved to avoid her. Passing a group of frat boys who knew me, they all had to shake my hand and express their love, though only one really knew me from giving him a jump start last winter. While talking to the frat boys, I felt a hand brush my hips. I turned to see the brunette walking away. The next morning, I found a note in my jeans pocket. If you like what you saw as much as I liked what I saw, call me, Robin. A phone number was written at the bottom. I spent the day cleaning up debris, wondering if the note was genuine. During my final break, I decided to call. Hello, answered a voice. Hi, may I speak to Robin? I asked. She's not here. Can I take a message? The voice replied. Tell her the guy from the party called and he liked what he saw, I said, leaving my number, wondering if I'd given it to someone else. That evening, as I settled in to watch a taped Bronco game, my phone rang. Yeah, I don't know your name, but I've seen your package, said a gruff but feminine voice. I thought it might be a prank. Should I just call you Moby Bick? I asked. Nope. Jack will work just fine, she responded. Robin, is it? I asked for confirmation. Yes, it's Robin. Sorry, my voice is hoarse from yelling at the game yesterday, she explained. Yelling at the game? Or would you like to meet at Frankie's Inn in an hour? I'd like to see your face better and show you this isn't a prank, I suggested. Sure, I'll be there in an hour, wearing a Shannon Sharp jersey and jeans, she agreed. Okay, that's number 13 for the Chargers, right? I teased. No, number 84 for the Broncos. What will you be wearing? She clarified. She described her outfit, and 45 minutes later, I was at Frankie's Cafe watching the door. I wasn't wearing my jersey in case I needed to slip out. 20 minutes later, she walked in, exactly as described, looking hot. I felt like a schmuck for not wearing my jersey. I stood and waved, and she headed my way, dismissing a few guys who stopped her. Funny-looking Bronco jersey, Jack. Afraid of getting tricked? She teased. Honestly, I wanted an escape if you weren't as advertised, I admitted. I can't blame you, she said. We drank coffee and ate pie until closing, then said goodnight. We dated for a month before getting physically engaged. The night I planned to make my move, I called Bruce to tell him I was getting serious with a girl. He advised making sure our feelings were true to avoid heartache. Ironically, 10 years later, she broke my heart because of him. I realized I had chuckled out loud when Robin and Dr. Landers looked at me like I'd just ruined their fruit salad. Do you find amusement in Robin's pain, Mr. Erickson? Dr. Landers asked. More in my own. I believe I owe Gary Wayne an overdue apology, I replied. Robin looked puzzled. She had dated Gary once, but quickly moved on to Justin Lohr, the guy she was with at the party 2 days later. Rumor had it Gary wasn't well endowed enough for her. Why would you owe him an apology? Robin asked. I might have punched him for telling the truth, I admitted. What truth? She inquired. He said Robin should be nicknamed Big Bird because she was always seeking a bigger branch to sit on, I explained. I don't understand, she said, still puzzled. She's a size queen, I clarified. Robin blushed angrily. She dumped Gary because he had a small wiener, then dumped Justin for me. Now she found out my ex-best friend has a larger one and jumped to him. It's just filthy, I elaborated. If you say it's just lovemaking, I'll leave and do my time in jail for contempt, I threatened. Robin and Dr. Landers were shocked. Dr. Landers collected herself. Robin, Neanderthal thinking doesn't comprehend multiple lovemaking partners in a happy marriage, Dr. Landers began. What are you talking about? I asked, incredulous. Many happily married couples enjoy multiple partners. Some husbands even derive pleasure from watching their wife with a better endowed man, she explained. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. There aren't enough narcotics to make me enjoy this nonsense. I don't care what others enjoy, I'll never watch my spouse with someone else. I'd put a bullet in her head before cleaning up after her, I said. Jack, don't you owe it to yourself and your marriage to have a more open mind? No one said you have to watch or clean up, Dr. Landers suggested. Yeah, Jack, it would be so hot. I could even service you after, Robin added. Screw you. You think I want Bruce's leftovers? Next, you'll want me in pink lingerie while you and Bruce screw. And sleep in a cage at the foot of the bed, I spat out angrily. Oh no, Jack, we'd let you sleep in your own bed, Robin responded. I'm out of here, I yelled. The receptionist was probably ready to call emergency. Mr. Erickson, you were ordered to attend these sessions. Failure to do so means jail for contempt, Dr. Landers reminded me. I've been here an hour. I don't need to be here longer, I said, looking Dr. Landers in the eye. Tell the judge everything I said. I don't care what she does. It'll be a cold day in hell before I get near that skank again, I added, pointing at Robin. I'll also talk to my lawyers about getting your license pulled. Leaving that building, I felt better than I had in ages. I drove straight to Bert's office. He looked alarmed when he saw me. Please tell me you didn't eliminate anyone, he said nervously. I wanted to, but I didn't. I probably said some things they didn't like. I told him about the session and the rehearsed feeling I got from it. I told him about the counselor's attitude towards me. Jack, you're not the first to complain about this. Complaints just get swept under the rug. I would have warned you, but I'd likely get hit with tampering charges. I'm not going back, Bert. That Jabba the Hutt can jail me if she wants, but I'm not sitting through 3 more hours of this crap. Bert said he'd have David Crosby make some calls. Stay out of trouble, Jack. We'll get this over soon. I went home wanting a few stiff drinks, but there was a red mark on the calendar. I had 3 beers since it was early afternoon, and I wouldn't be back on duty until after 7. I had dinner, watched TV, and drank beer. By the 6th inning of the ballgame, a thunderstorm rolled in. I went to the porch and saw heavy black clouds moving over downtown, signaling a summer hailstorm that could keep roofing crews busy until Thanksgiving. Earlier summer storms had hit the north side hard, promising work for roofing contractors until October. As the storm raged and power outage reports came in, I prepared for a long night. My neighborhood got pea-sized hail, but calls confirmed golf ball and baseball-sized hail in Midtown. Eventually, the call came. Instead of cleaning up hail, half the crew and I hauled sand and road base to the river dike, which was threatened by heavy rain. By 4 a.m., the Army Corps of Engineers declared the dike safe, and the county had the bridge under control. We spent another 3 hours hauling away sand and dirt from the storm. At 9 a.m. Friday, I pulled into my driveway, knowing I wouldn't catch my wife with Bruce because I no longer had a wife. I was energized from coffee and energy drinks, but figured a shot of Jägermeister would help me sleep. After finishing the bottle, I lay on the couch to watch TV and fell asleep. I was awakened by knocking at the door. It was almost 11 and Brenda McBain was on my porch. What does she want? I wondered aloud. I turned on the porch light and opened the door. Sorry to bother you, Jack, but there's something you need to see. It might help with your divorce. I stood there, trying to understand what she could show me. She looked hot in tight shorts and a yellow halter. She said something, turned, and headed to her driveway. I followed her to her car and got in. As she drove in silence, I kept staring at her legs, which were much better than Robin's or Cheryl's. She caught me staring a few times and smiled. Brenda drove to a group of abandoned buildings downtown. The city had bought the buildings years ago, hoping developers would buy them, but sales were always nixed by a secret ballot from the Board of Trustees. It cost the city a lot to maintain and secure the properties. 2 years ago, a chain-link fence was installed to keep people out. We parked at the old power plant, which had more cars than expected. Brenda, what are we doing here? We could get in big trouble if we're caught, I said, feeling uneasy. Come on, Jack, you'll see. This will help you in a big way, Brenda assured. I couldn't see how trespassing would help my divorce, but I followed her. She walked through a cut in the fence and approached a basement window of the old King James Hotel. I caught up, and she pointed to a spot where light was coming through the window. What the hell? I muttered. I knew the building had no power, yet there was light inside. Looking through the window, I saw why Brenda had brought me. As I gasped, she handed me her camcorder. On the way home, Brenda explained how she discovered what was happening at the hotel. Tommy and I were spying on Bruce and Robin when he mentioned this place. So the next Friday night, we followed them here. I was surprised Cheryl didn't come, she explained. So that was Friday night choir practice? I asked, incredulous. Brenda looked embarrassed that I had found out another of my wife's secrets. Don't worry, Brenda. I'll keep you and Tommy out of this. My beef is with the others, I reassured her. You know Tommy and I screw because we're too ugly for anyone else to want us, Brenda said suddenly. Where did that come from? I wondered. I never questioned their activities. That can't be true. I bet many guys would love to be with you, I said, trying to comfort her. Maybe some guys would use me, but none want to be seen in public with me. I've had 3 boyfriends who dated prudes and met me in secret. They call me Bummerface and a 3-bagger. 1 bag on my head, 1 on his in case mine falls off, and 1 by the door. I'm good enough for secret lovemaking, but not to date or show off, she lamented. Come on, Brenda. It can't be that bad. If I were your age, I'd be all over you, I said, feeling like an a-hole for lying. But she was on the verge of tears, and it helped me a lot. You've helped me tremendously. I'd like to take you to dinner tomorrow. Get dolled up and I'll pick you up at 7, okay? You don't have to pity me, Jack. Besides, I'm going to Denver tomorrow and we'll be gone until Sunday evening, she responded. It's not pity. How about a rain check on the dinner? I offered. She agreed, and I went inside. I had the leverage I needed. In the morning, I'd make some calls. By Thursday, everything was in place. I called Bert first. Well, I have to warn you that what you're doing is considered extortion. But I think it will work, he said. No wonder that judge always orders the things she does, I replied. Next, I called Mike Stor, a high school buddy and investigative reporter. I gave him the video and details. He had heard rumors and planned to stake out the hotel and bust them live on TV. Monday morning, I proposed a plan to the head of the city maintenance department. It would solve a storage problem and restrict hotel access. He liked it. Since the city owned the property, we just needed to request it with the zoning office. No board involvement was needed because we were reappropriating land, not selling it. The fences wouldn't cost more than $150,000, so no budget request was needed. As I left his office, he told me he was recommending me for a promotion. You saved us at least $500,000 if this gets done. Great thinking, Jack. I need more thinkers on my staff, he said. By Wednesday, we had all approvals and permits. I was put in charge of overseeing the move and upgrades. A 10-man crew was assigned, and the project would be done in 3 weeks. Thursday morning, we started moving fencing material to the old power plant parking lot. We'd use land behind the hotel for snowplow storage and a new sand depot. I left work at noon for counseling with Dr. Landers. At 12:30, I walked into the reception room. The receptionist gave me a dirty look and called into her boss's office. 5 minutes later, I was buzzed in. Dr. Landers looked so smug, making it all the more enjoyable for me. "Mr. Erickson, I'm surprised to see you early. I'm glad we can have a few minutes for one-on-one before the session," Dr. Landers said. "One-on-one is a new concept, huh?" I remarked. "Excuse me, Mr. Erickson?" she asked, confused. "I just came to tell you I won't attend this sham anymore or pay for it," I declared. She looked annoyed, then smug. "Judge Kagan ordered your attendance. You'll go to jail for—" "Screw you. I'm not coming back," I interrupted. "Mr. Erickson, watch your mouth," she warned. "Tell Kagan the gig is up. I know about your Casanovas Club at the King James, and my buddy Mike Stor will soon, too. Legal and ethical agencies will be curious why a family court judge and counselor run a lovemaking club. All those cheaters getting favorable rulings in Kagan's court will be exposed," I threatened. "There is no such clue," she began, but I cut her off. "Don't lie. I saw the elk head with contraceptives on its antlers," I said. Her face paled as I ranted. I didn't tell her Mike Stor already knew and had video proof. Judge Kagan and her husband stood to lose the most. He worked in the DA's office, and Stoneware DA Jim Morrison wouldn't tolerate embarrassment. At the door, I looked back at the dejected Dr. Landers. "Screw you," I repeated before leaving. 20 minutes later, Robin was with Dr. Landers.
I was nervous when the door buzzed 10 minutes after my session with Jack was supposed to start. Bruce and my attorney, Justin Bieber, assured me that Dr. Landers and Judge Kagan would either convince Jack to accept my situation or make the process so drawn out, he'd give up. I wore a shorter skirt, no hose, styled my hair the way he liked, and wore the perfume he bought me. Dr. Landers looked stricken when I walked in. Jack wasn't there, and I assumed he had been dismissed. I was upset I wouldn't see him. Despite his hate, I still loved him. I couldn't walk down our street or be on the balcony while he was home. "Is Jack risking jail to avoid the session?" I asked. I knew she didn't like macho men like Jack, especially with his attitude and foul mouth. "There's no session today, Robin. I'll call when I know more." She buzzed the door open. I wondered what had shaken her. I drove to the church to see Bruce. With extra time, I looked forward to the Casanovas Club the next night. Bruce would be in my bum while Terry Kagan screwed me. Just the thought made me hot. If I found Bruce alone at the church, he'd get jumped. I wish Jack would join in. The thought of Jack and Bruce doing me at the same time almost made me climax. I could even smell my own arousal. At the church, Bruce was on the phone and looked in a foul mood. The look he gave me said I'd have to wait. That was Terry. There will be no club meeting tonight. Jack found out and threatened to call Mike Stor. "I'm regretting hooking up with you, Robin. Your holes aren't worth the trouble." I was stunned. A few months ago, he wanted me every day, saying I was better than Cheryl. Now, with a little pushback from Jack, I was suddenly out of favor. After dinner, my attorney called. He said we had a hearing in the morning. He thought it could be a good sign, possibly indicating Jack had dropped the divorce petition. I asked if it could be a contempt hearing for Jack. Justin doubted it. If Jack was being called, we wouldn't have been ordered in. He told me to sleep well, feeling positive about tomorrow. Bruce cheered up a bit. Maybe someone pressured him to keep quiet. There are powerful people in that club. Jack has balls, but no clout. The lovemaking was incredible that night. I climaxed a dozen times. Bruce, Cheryl, and I had a great time. At 10 a.m., I was in Judge Kagan's courtroom. Jack's attorney and another man were there, but Jack was absent. I asked Justin if Jack would be in trouble for not showing up. "Not likely. He might be licking his wounds. I don't understand why Graham Nash is here. He hasn't been in a courtroom in 6 years. Something's definitely up." Judge Kagan called the court to order. Jack's attorney and Nash asked to approach. Justin joined them, and they talked at the bench for at least 20 minutes. Justin looked troubled when he returned, and before I could ask, the judge banged her gavel and announced that in 90 days, my marriage to Jack would be dissolved. I would receive no alimony or support, only 25% of Jack's retirement and 40% of our liquid assets. Justin explained that Judge Kagan granted Jack's petition for divorce. The next thing I knew, an EMT was helping me to a seat. "Ma'am, how many fingers am I holding up?" Within 3 weeks, everything had fallen apart. The news exposed the Casanovas Club, leading to Judge Kagan's removal and potential charges. Her husband was fired and charged in a pills-running scheme. Justin Bieber was disbarred for having lovemaking with male clients and throwing cases for Judge Kagan. He was also involved in the pills ring. Dr. Landers was ordered to repay 30 clients and was later found dead with her husband in a homicide self-destruction. Bruce was asked to resign from his ministry, with his severance barely covering moving expenses. Cheryl filed for divorce after catching him giving pleasure for himself while watching the McBain sisters swim. Bruce blamed me for everything and decided not to take me with him. I moved into a small apartment with Cheryl until we got back on our feet. I used most of the money from Jack to set up our utilities and help Cheryl hire an attorney. Bruce tried to hire Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, but they refused. He ended up with a no-name lawyer and got cleaned out by Cheryl. Last I heard, he was preaching in Iowa. I got a job with an accounting agency after my divorce. Cheryl worked for a contractor and started dating one of his workers. I didn't want to date anyone. I wanted Jack. Occasionally I walked past our old street and saw the for sale sign in the yard. 2 weeks ago I saw it had sold. Distraught, I went to buy comfort food, mainly Haagen-Dazs and Chips Ahoy. Passing the frozen dinner section, I saw Jack buying a frozen pizza. Before I knew it, I was groveling in the store. I don't remember exactly what I said, but when I stopped to breathe and wipe my eyes, Jack looked embarrassed as a small crowd gathered. He smiled, pointed to his bum, and said, "Eat my crap and die." Then he walked away.
I was in Las Vegas. I pulled my truck into the driveway and saw my lawn needed mowing. I'd wait until Saturday morning to beat the heat. Inside, my wife greeted me with a passionate kiss. "Hi, baby. Did you make sure the tourists and pensioners didn't cheat the big corporations?" She teased. My job as a slot machine technician always brought out my wife's sarcasm. "And when you graduate next month, you'll be working for the man just like me, at least until you knock me up," I replied, adding to the banter. She kissed me again. "I'm glad you're home. Studying with the girls tonight?" I asked. "Yes, but I'll have to watch Samantha around you. She can't keep her eyes off your bum," she joked. "I used to have a neighbor girl like that, always staring at my bum when I mowed the lawn. Still can't believe Robin screwed Mr. Harris," I said, shaking my head. "Oh well, her loss, my gain," Brenda said with a smile. "Indeed, Brenda. I'll go get us some pizza. I know how you college girls chow," I replied. She kissed me as I headed out the door. Brenda and I had been married for 3 years. I got to Vegas 3 days after leaving Stonemore. Some might think I was an a-hole for leaving Robin the way I did, but I couldn't trust her again. I slipped out after she fell asleep, paid for the room, and left her 3 days' time. Thanks to NOS and NODAWS, I made it to Utah before sunrise and arrived in Vegas 2 days later. Within a week, I had a job and a place to stay. I used the money from selling my house and my retirement fund to buy a new house. 2 weeks later, Brenda showed up, as planned. She had enrolled at UNLV. During the weeks waiting for my house to sell and my divorce to finalize, Brenda and I spent a lot of time together. She'd bring food, we'd watch movies, and go out on weekends. The more I knew her, the more I liked her. I wasn't ashamed to be seen in public with her. When I told her about Robin begging me to take her back, she teared up. "Hey, I have no plans of going back to her. Brenda, I'm falling for you. I have a plan if you can stand being with an old man like me," I said gently. She was on me before I could finish. That night, after 3 rounds, 1 fevered, 2 more relaxed, I laid out my plan. I expected Tom and Jerry to object, but they didn't. "Jack, you've always been rough, but I can't imagine our daughter in better hands," Tom said. "I know you'll treat her right and make her happy. She's loved you since the day you moved in." A year after moving to Vegas, Brenda made friends with a cosmetology student who taught her how to highlight her features. She changed her hairstyle and became quite attractive. We married after her freshman year. I told her she could date someone her age, but she didn't speak to me for a week. "You silly, stupid a-hole," she said when she started talking again. "I've only had eyes for one man. I watched as the wrong woman threw you away, and now I'll never let you go." I occasionally talk to people back home. Tom and Jerry keep us updated. Cheryl married a tile guy, had a kid, and moved to California. Robin returned to Stonemore after I left her in Wyoming. She married a rancher who kicked her out a year later for cheating. The kid behind the counter handed me my pizzas. If I get them home quickly, Brenda might jump my bones before her study group arrives. I'll retire to my den and watch the Rockies on my MLB season pass. From one risky woman to another, my life is as good as a morning crap.